Big Sills! I got to show you this right out of the gate here. And people, I've told you this before. I have like a ton of stuff that people send me all the time. I just showed Tone this. So my kid goes like this, Dad, where'd you get this book from? It's from Russell Simmons here. And I go, I'm thousands of people come into my studio back in the day. When you do this stuff for 30 years, okay, you kind of like, this is what you get. She goes, have you ever opened it? And for the record, obviously, I've never opened it. She goes, did you ever look at the front page? Russell Simmons signed it. I'm like, no, I didn't know he signed it for me. I got books stacked up. And I just to show you the kind of life I live. I got a book signed by Russell Simmons. Unbelievable. By the way, what did I see here? 5-star goes Trump 2024. Listen, I got to say this kind of with like a low tone because my kid gets a little pissed off about it. Donald Trump's the greatest thing that ever happened to broadcasting. Holy shit. I was just telling Tone. Have you ever seen a human being on all major news networks? Have you in your life ever seen that? Have you ever seen any person dominate the landscape like that guy does? Have you ever seen it? I've never in my lifetime. I'm trying to think of one guy who commands the television set, right or wrong. I'm talking about polarizing. Who is the most hey, and by the way, I'm not giving a political speech here. Can you name one guy when he gets to the microphone or is been in the news or in the sport? Michael Jordan? Michael Jordan's not on every newscast when he does something. Have we ever seen anything? Hey, Rock goes like this. F Trump. Okay. That's not my point. I'm asking you. Have you ever seen anybody in your life? Richard Nixon? Now, maybe Nixon. I'm older than Tone, so, I go back a ways. Shit, man, in my lifetime, Kennedy was shot and killed. I was 9 months old when he was shot and killed. But Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy. Have we ever seen anyone get on a television set and just own it? JFK probably. Yeah, okay, JFK. That's the only guy I can think of. Every time he steps to the mic, the entire world is listening. It's incredible. It's utterly incredible, man. It's incredible when you see this guy. Now he's being indicted, whatever. Again, I'm not going to sit here and make some sort of political speech here or anything about it. And nor do I care because that's not going to dominate my show because today we got the Philly Godfather on at 4:30. The Philly Godfather is on with us at 4:30, and we're going to kick it around a little bit about your boy Jalen Hurts, about the Eagles, and about the NFL. So Ronald Reagan, that could be, okay? 5-star, I'm with you, man. Nobody tops Trump, though. Nobody tops Trump. I've never seen anything like it in my entire life. I've never seen anything like it. I saw somebody say, Sills, please no golf or soccer. Okay, fair enough, but I love the fact that Tone is watching this thing with Liv, and he goes, did you see what the PGA said today? This is not a merger. Okay. Hey, bless your soul. Shut the hell up. Go sit in your little corner. They own you now. The Liv golfers get to play on your little tiny tour. You guys get to argue over country clubs that you guys get to go that you or I don't get to go to. Whatever, guy. It's millionaires and billionaires bitching at each other. You and I really don't give a shit about that. Okay? Josh goes, blow. What are you talking about? It's a question, you jackass. Oh, what? Because your boy's falling off of bicycles and falling down on podiums? You can't admit that this guy Trump is one of the most polarizing people of the 21st century? You're crazy not to do. See, that's the guy right there that still denies certain things when it comes to Jalen Hurts. You know, they drafted him to be a franchise quarterback. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Got you, Josh. We're all good on this Friday here. All right. So I heard something earlier today, and I saw something earlier today that D-Hop is now visiting the New England Patriots. Well, let me throw this at you here. Well, New England doesn't pay. Yeah, right. And I'm going to tie this into the Eagles. New England has to pay now. They don't have Tom Brady. You bet everybody took a haircut when Tom Brady was up there. If you were going to make a lot of money, you didn't go to New England. But just take a look at what the Patriots did 3 years ago. They spent $360 million in free agent money because Tom Brady wasn't in the building anymore. $360 million in free agency money. So when DeAndre Hopkins is up in New England, you bet they're going to overpay to try to get him in the building because they have to now because Brady's not there. This is the point that I was – see, Tone, right here is a perfect example of what I'm talking about, what Jalen Hurts now brings to your team. Eagles don't have to pay that. They would never have to come close to what New England has to – like Cleveland. Cleveland has to overpay and basically bribe Deshaun Watson to go play there. Why? Because nobody would. Okay? Steve loves Trump. Keeps it real. Okay. Hey, in Philadelphia, they don't have to pay top dollar for DeAndre Hopkins because you know what they offer? Winning. Culture. Stability. More importantly, a quarterback. And you know what Jalen can say and the Eagles can say to DeAndre Hopkins? Chase the bag of money. Congratulations. You'll finish 12th in the AFC. Get your money, and you'll fade into oblivion in the AFC. Congratulations. Not a problem. If you come to Philly, you win a Super Bowl. You put a cherry on top of your career. Then you get to go into free agency in February and March, and there'll be a cattle cave of teams wanting to have you. Be a mountain of teams. New England has to overpay. They have to overpay. Okay? Have to overpay. It's perfect. It's the greatest example of why the Philadelphia Eagles now have what Brady had in New England. It's a culture there. Everybody gets paid in Philly. Everybody that goes to Philadelphia gets paid. Every single agent sees that. You don't have that in New England. You got to bribe me to go to New England now. DeAndre Hopkins, do you know what he's doing with the Patriots? He's using them as leverage for the place he really wants to land. Maybe Baltimore. Maybe Kansas City. See? If you're Kansas City and you see him in New England, does that make the Patriots better? Absolutely. Does that kind of give the Eagles something to think about on opening night if he's on that team? Surely it does. He's a great player. Okay? So again, hey, real quick also, today's the 50th anniversary of Secretariat. If you've never watched that race of that horse, what he did on Belmont, that 31-length victory in 224. I'm not a horse racing fan. I'm not a NASCAR fan, but I'm a greatness fan. And to me, that's one of the greatest 20th century things I've ever seen in sports. It's one of the greatest things. And then when you got the announcer going, he's moving like a tremendous machine, and he wins the thing by 31 lengths. It's truly one of the greatest sporting moments of all time. Not only was the fact that he won the Triple Crown, but the way he demolished things. How about this? Can you explain this to me too? One last thing on this. One last thing. Hey, do we agree that athletes are bigger and better training? And get this, in horse racing, you've got better breeding. How can a guy own all three stake races 50 years later? That's like saying that the Usain Bolt 100-meter record in the Olympics will hold up for 50 years. How's that possible? I thought athletes in training and breeding and everything get better. How's that? I guess you see, that's the closest thing we've ever seen to anything on earth with perfection, because you'll never break those records. Think about that. 50 years ago, in the horse racing business, where track records are broken every year, they're not even close. How's that possible? How is that possible that horse still owns all those records? All those records to this day. Incredible moment and incredible time. And today's the 50th anniversary of that. And Belmont is Saturday. And with the weather and with all the pollution in the air, they're still going to have the race on Saturday. So that's going to be something that I'm sure they're going to celebrate. I've actually seen Claiborne Ranch, where the horse was for a while. I had to. One of the greatest athletes in the history of American sports is that horse. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. God put his hand on that horse just a little bit longer, like he does certain athletes. All right. I want to get into Dak Prescott here a little bit. And I want to say this to you about Dak Prescott. How many people think that Dak Prescott, the Dallas Cowboy quarterback, has overachieved? I'm going to tie this into Jalen here. How many people believe that Dak has overachieved? You think Dak Prescott's overachieved as a quarterback in National Football League? What was he, a fifth rounder at Mississippi State, fourth rounder? Fourth rounder. Okay. He's overachieved. Tone says, of course he has. Okay. He's clearly overachieved given his draft place, JM says. ERA says no, he hasn't overachieved. Really? Tony Romo overachieved. He wasn't drafted, and he holds every Cowboy record on the planet when it comes to passing the ball. That's Staubach and Aikman. That's Danny White. That's all the quarterbacks that have ever played in Cowboy history for a guy that wasn't drafted, wasn't taken in the first round. Aikman and Staubach were high draft choice guys. You're trying to tell me you don't think Dak Prescott, being a fourth rounder, has not overachieved in the money he's making? That's a ridiculous comment. When you're not, how many people believe that? Wait, well, let me ask the same question then. You think Jalen Hurts is overachieved? Do you think that Jalen Hurts is overachieved? As a quarterback, where he is now, you think he's overachieved? I do. I think he's completely overachieved. I didn't see that. Nor did anyone else. Nor did the coach he had in college. Greasy goes, no, he didn't overachieve. Second round pick. Most second rounders, if you think there's somebody coming out of college, some of you guys are just dumbasses, but it's all gay. Because some of you just are not that informed. But I'm here to help you. That's what Big Sales is. We're a helper here. I'm here to help. Okay? Absolutely, Jalen Hurts has overachieved and shown people the wrong that they had when it came to drafting. That's how Brady looked at it, too. No, Dak Prescott is garbage. Dak Prescott is not garbage. He is absolute. Why? He kicks the shit out of you. How can a guy who's garbage kick the shit out of you every time he plays you? So let's just go. ERA goes, Dak is garbage. He beats the piss out of you every time he lines up. You haven't beaten him going into 5 years now. You might want to. Garbage beats the Eagles? Okay. I guess you answer your own question. Garbage beats the Eagles. That's how you look at it then. A garbage quarterback dominates the Eagles. Okay? If you're a quarterback, you're drafted anywhere outside the first round, no one sees you as their future. Jalen has definitely overachieved, and I'm grateful for it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Jalen Hurts was never drafted to be the starting quarterback ever in Philadelphia. Ever. Nobody thought that. Not even your GM. A year ago, June 9th. Okay? A year ago, June 9th. But I want to say this to you about one thing that's becoming definitely clear between these two players. Does Dak Prescott love the game as much as Jalen Hurts does? I mean, does Dak, is he as dedicated to the sport that he needs to be? I think sometimes when you become a Dallas Cowboy, you forget sometimes that the dedication that it takes to become the best. I saw a quote, I can't remember by who, and they were talking about Mahomes and Brady on how they are just so detailed maniacs. Everything is, when you're detailed, we talked about Jonathan Gannon. Yesterday about not being 100% focused on the Super Bowl. And I still to this day 1,000% believe that. You're never going to – here's one thing I can promise you when it comes to Jalen Hurts compared to Dak Prescott. When it comes to the preparation of the game, I don't really have to sit there and put, guess what, clauses in a contract like they did with Kyler Murray in Arizona that he's going to study. That's a complete contrast to who Jalen Hurts is. When you've got to kind of like float that out there that Kyler Murray needs to have study incentives to break down games each and every single week and put the time in. He's not dedicated to the sport. He's relying on his athletic ability. Does Dak do enough to become elite? He's not elite. There's no question about it, and I completely agree. 2-4 in the postseason? Sorry, dude. You're not an elite quarterback if you're 2-4 in the postseason. That is not elite. I don't give a shit how many great stats you put up in the regular season. Unless your legacy, hey, your fame, tell me if you agree with this. Your fame is built in the regular season. Your legacy is built in the postseason. Your legacy's built in the postseason. Donovan McNabb put up, I would make this point to you. To me, there's a part of me that looks at Donovan McNabb and Dak, and I see the same guy. McNabb is probably a tad bit more petty, but I see the same dude. Okay? I see the same dude almost. Donovan's a tad bit more accomplished in the postseason. A lot. Be fair to Donovan. I'm not going to dismiss what he's done in the postseason. Getting to the conference championship games is something. You're putting your team in a position to win at least. He did. Dak never. And hasn't yet. That's a fact. Yeah, but Devin, here's the one thing I have to give McNabb credit for. You did get in position to win the NFC title quite a bit of time. And half a decade, getting to an NFC title game, that's half the battle, dude. And you're constantly competitive for a Super Bowl seat. I don't know. I think that's pretty good. You put me in a position to play for a Super Bowl, McNabb, to me, is better than Dak. He's better than Dak. Regular season, I see a lot of comparisons. Okay? Remember, McNabb did it with less. Dak has been given everything and still fails. Yeah, but remember one thing too that was very apparent when it came to Dak Prescott, that the one thing that you're overlooking, the one thing that we're overlooking in that whole process, McNabb had Andy Reid, had a true coach. See, McNabb is kind of like LeBron in a way. He's never really had a great coach tell him no. And Andy Reid would tell McNabb, no, this is what we have to do if we're going to win. So McNabb had a great coach behind him and a great play caller. McNabb's really Kellen Moore compared to Andy Reid, really? What head coach would you say that Dak Prescott has had that you went, man, that guy's a great coach? Who? Can you name one guy he's had? So Andy Reid, there's no coincidence the influence that he's had on Patrick Mahomes too. I mean, would Patrick Mahomes be Patrick Mahomes if Andy Reid wasn't there? I don't know. Would Tom Brady be Tom Brady if he didn't have Bill Belichick? Would Joe Montana be Joe Montana if he didn't have Bill Walsh? I don't know. That's why I always tell you about LeBron. LeBron, if he would have had a better coach and a Pat Riley or a Phil Jackson, God knows what he would have done. He may have won 10 NBA championships. But LeBron never wanted that. It's okay. He still got 4, but in my opinion, he's the only top 10 guy in the history of top 10 debates in NBA history that has a losing record in the finals. Think about it. He's the only guy. LeBron James is the only dude outside of Wilt that has a losing record in the NBA finals. When you start talking about who the GOAT is, I think that is something because your journey does matter. Okay? Yeah, JM, I'm not putting AI in the top 10 NBA greatest players. He's not. He's my favorite player, but he's not. So again, Dak Prescott. I think we're now starting to look. I mean, aren't we starting to put we're starting to put the book on Dak Prescott's career together here, aren't we? He's really never gotten out of the first round. He's put up really good regular season numbers. And as we've said before, the comparison in today's game, he's Kirk Cousins. He's really not even Donovan McNabb. McNabb at least got to the conference title game in a Super Bowl. McNabb had a better career than Dak Prescott. And you know what kind of fan I am of McNabb? I'm not. But he had a better career. And yet we look at Prescott and think, wow, this guy's really a really, truly great. I don't think that. I heard Keyshawn Johnson say he thought he was better than Joe Burrow. Why do you think the Eagles never gave McNabb true wide receiver one till later? We would have probably won those NFC title games with a real WR1. 2004, they gave him Terrell Owens. Personally, can I tell you why? I don't think he could handle the egos. Every time he had a high personality wide receiver like Deshaun Jackson or T.O., it never worked. Did you ever ask yourself that it was the quarterback who didn't want it? And that's why they never did it. He couldn't handle high-end personalities, McNabb. That's my bitch with him. So you had two high-quality personalities and talented players in Deshaun Jackson and in Terrell Owens, and he couldn't handle it. Okay? He couldn't handle both those players. Talk shit on both of them. And those guys were the enemy. Those guys were the bad guys. Owens was a clubhouse distraction, and Jackson was overrated. Personally, Donovan McNabb thought that Deshaun Jackson was overrated. If you read through the tea leaves and his comments that he made about him when they were playing together, he thought he was overrated. Okay? I mean, I believe, and this is why, again, the quarterback is responsible for that, not the receiver. The wide receiver, here, let me give you here's the greatest example of it. So, hey, Sills, Jalen did not overachieve. He has great, yeah, okay, Bob, right, okay. overachieved. He was not drafted to be the starting quarterback for your Eagles. Plain and simple, dude. When you're drafted to be a backup, he was drafted, Bob, to be the backup in Philadelphia. You can try to revise the history you want. He didn't have great skills. He wasn't good in his first year starting, 61% completion. He was not. Stop lying. It's not true. The people in Philadelphia media have been telling you a lie. He's a second rounder. So what? So what? Dude. Guy says, hey, get this. There's people actually in here saying I'm making that up. That after giving a guy $38 million a year, you drafted a quarterback to be the starter in Philadelphia. What a bunch of numbnuts. You think after you gave a guy $38 million, made him the highest paid player in the league, that you drafted a player to take his job? Absolutely asinine. Absolutely asinine. He was never drafted here. By the way, what's wrong with saying a guy? Tom Brady is the greatest overachiever in the history of the NFL. You think that that's a bad merit badge to have? Holy shit. Brady made that 6th round pick look stupid. That's overachieving. Joe Montana was a 3rd rounder, 4-0 in Super Bowls. Do you know what the distinction with him is? He never threw a pick in Super Bowl play. 11 touchdowns, 135 quarterback rating, and he wasn't playing Nick Foles. He was playing Elway and Marino. I mean, that's overachieving. I'm not debating this with idiots. Moving on. But here's why McNabb failed. Okay? Here's why he failed. And here's the greatest example of it. Tyreek Hill today came out and said that he's looking for 2,000 receiving yards and wants to break the record. That's why he's no longer in Kansas City. Instead of saying he wants, you would never hear a comment like this out of Jalen Hurts. Hey, I want to throw for 4,500 yards, 30 touchdowns. He just wants to get back to the Super Bowl again and get an opportunity to win that game. Tyreek Hill's talking about personal records. But that's today's wide receiver. You know what a perfect game for today's wide receiver is in the NFL? 14 catches, 140 yards, 2 touchdowns, and who gives a shit if you win or lose? They don't care. Quarterbacks have to know that. And the good ones do. And they manage that. McNabb could never. He could never manage that. You need to make the players around you feel like you are better than him. And Hurts does that. Dak, I don't think, has ever done that. He was overrated, or they would have tried to trade for Russell Wilson. They wouldn't have tried to trade for Russell Wilson. Not only that, Steve-O, that was last year. And the only reason that Russell Wilson wasn't a Philadelphia Eagle, not because of the Eagles. Wilson vetoed it. That's a great point. All of you in here who thought that he was drafted to be your quarterback and Jalen Hurts to be your future, this time last year, June 9th, if it wasn't for a veto by Russell Wilson, Jalen Hurts would be in Seattle. Deal with it. Deal with it. All the way a year ago today, they were trying to trade for Russell Wilson. Do I think Wilson would have took the Eagles to the Super Bowl? No. No, I do not. I think Russell Wilson has a lot to work on personally, because Russell Wilson makes you feel like he's better than you. I think that was the major trouble that he had in Denver last year. That's not going to go over with Sean Payton. We'll see. It is clear. Doesn't it also show that Philly isn't such a great organization to potential players? I don't think anybody on the planet did not want Russell Wilson in the building in any organization last year, June 9th. I think one bad season, I'm not going to castrate Russell Wilson. If he puts another bad season together, he's had too many. I'm sorry, man. I'm not like many of you. That guy has had too many great quality seasons for me to sit there and go, one season, he sucks. I'm not doing that. That's not going to happen. Okay? He puts 2 in a row, then we got a problem. So 12 great seasons. He doesn't play well last year. He sucks, right? Okay, well, we'll see. If Jalen Hurts has the career that Russell Wilson had, he'll be in Canton. Just remember that. All of you sit there and say that if Jalen Hurts comes close to the kind of career that Russell Wilson had, he'll be in Canton. Seals, you think Dak is on the decline? It's a good question. I think Dak doesn't do enough dedication for the sport. And I'm going to get into Jalen Hurts here in a minute. Okay. No one in Philly thought Hurts was going to be what he is today. Okay. If you say that you thought Hurts was going to do what he has already, you're just lying. It's okay to be wrong, guys. I was wrong too. Me too. You see, sometimes, Joshua, people don't, it's a new way. That's how I've always done sports talk. My opinion's not in cement. How could it be? It's player performance. The old way of thinking is you're like D'Angelo's and, the Howard Eskins and all them dudes. Their opinion has to be in cement. Mike Missinelli, them guys. Has to be in cement, or get this. They feel like, they changed their opinion or flip-flop. It's not. The player changed it for you. You didn't do anything. You're just observe. We observe. Should have kept T.O. over McNabb? No. Andy should have done a better coaching job with McNabb. If you notice, they were not going to have that scenario play itself out in Kansas City. So they shipped him out of town, Tyreek Hill. If I'm Tyreek Hill, there lies the difference right there again. Tyreek Hill's talking about 2,000 yards, and the Chiefs are talking about Super Bowls. They're talking about Super Bowls. There's the difference. But there's wide receivers. You have to understand that when you get one of these guys. That's why when A.J. Brown starts talking shit, I don't really care because it's not really anything that's hurting a locker room. Okay, to me, the problems that you have is guys like Alshon Jeffries. Whether or not Nick Foles was the guy or Carson Wentz was the guy, shut the fuck up. You're in the locker room to catch footballs. Whoever's throwing you the ball, shut up. Okay, you're not to be a clubhouse politician or a clubhouse lawyer. Do your job. It's not your job to divide the locker room. That's the quarterback's responsibility to take care of it. And this is where Wentz failed. Allowing guys in that tool, Alshon Jeffries, to talk shit like that. That's why Wentz sucks right now. Because he can't manage that. Nobody talks shit on Jalen. Then again, Jalen had some losing, but not a lot. Okay? Is it obvious, Dan? Hurts can't beat any quality. No. It's not Jalen. It's the defense can't beat your Hollywood. Jalen Hurts doesn't play against Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes this year. He plays against those defenses in Spagnuolo. And he plays against Dan Quinn and those guys. He doesn't play against those quarterbacks. Now, can he go back and forth with them in a different way? He gets to the same, hey, look, it's not how you drive, it's how you arrive. So he kind of gets to the same place those other quarterbacks get to. So it's okay. I just think that Dak Prescott never put the true dedication that it took to be a great player because you know why? I think being the Dallas Cowboys here, I don't know if you guys agree with this one or not. If Dak Prescott was somewhere else with a better quality coach, if he was in Seattle, I think Dak Prescott would have won a Super Bowl by now. But because he's in Dallas, Dallas held him back. Wearing the star, Jerry Jones holds you back from winning a Super Bowl. And I think Jerry Jones held Dak Prescott back. Never put quality coaches around him. Look at the quality players that they've had around him, but because Jerry overpays them, they're constantly ripping the team. Look at what Howie Roseman's doing with Jalen. Figuring a way, get this, to figure a way. Here's the greatest thing you need to know about your Eagle organization. The Eagles figured a way to keep great players around him by doing what? Paying for it. They gave him the money and redid contracts and gave all these players money up front. Nobody in the NFL does that but the Eagles. That was the only way you were going to maintain your roster. I said you couldn't do it. You did it. I was wrong. You did something. Then again, you did something no other team has ever done. Kept your team intact. But you did the right thing by paying the players. You did the right thing. Okay? You did the right thing. Quinn goes, Dak has bad habits, bad coaching, no stability. Hey, if you think about the Dallas Cowboys, what's the one position in that entire organization that they don't have stability at? Head coach. How could you have no stability at head coach and call yourself a Super Bowl team? You have no stability just because you're there 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. You're there with no authority. You're kind of a librarian or a CPA. You're not really anything because Jerry's in control of everything. You know, when you have too many hats sometimes and you have too many jobs, in my opinion, what happens to the Cowboys? I mean, you thin yourself. Do things you're great at. You're a businessman. You know how to market the team. It's the most watched television show every single year, Dallas Cowboy games. You're great at that. But when it comes to football, you're not bad at actually drafting. You're actually not bad. But when it comes to coaching, you're horrific. When it comes to picking coaches, you're horrific. That entire coaching staff that Jimmy Johnson brought in was my coaching staff from Miami. Every guy on that staff, except for North Turner, was a coach at UM. Jerry hired none of them. Jimmy hired them all. They've never been able to replace not only Jimmy, but the coaching staff. And the way that Jimmy evaluated talent. Just what it is, man. And you're a head coach in Dallas, there's no stability there. Jerry's the problem. Jerry Jones has held Dak Prescott back from winning because he doesn't give him quality coaching. It's attaboys. That's my guy. He's not really his guy. Tony Romo was his guy. He reluctantly gave him the job. Personally, I don't think Jerry really has ever 100% bought into Dak. Don't you feel that way? Don't you feel that Jerry Jones really has never 100% bought into Dak? And that's why those guys were on the honeymoon, or not even the honeymoon. They were engaged for 3 years before they finally got a deal done. If that was Tony Romo, that deal would have got done. And if you ever listen to Jerry Jones talk about Tony Romo, you would swear Tony Romo had the career that Troy Aikman had. And Troy Aikman's the best quarterback in the history of the franchise next to Staubach. Those two guys are the greatest in that franchise's history. But Tony Romo, in the eyes of Jerry Jones, that's his boy. Yeah, I agree with that when they're Sunstar. I think Jerry Jones had his arm twisted. He looked at it that he drafted a guy in the 4th round. It's a find, like they found Romo. And Jerry signed him, but reluctantly, he's the face of the franchise. I think Jerry, you think he's really been how are you look at what and how the Eagles perform around Jalen Hurts right now. They're doing everything they can to make sure that guy has nothing but success, not just for this year. Look at the draft choices they have next year. Look at all the picks that they're going to get with the compensation picks. Look at the first round picks they get. Look at all the shit that they have coming their way next year. Dude, the Eagles are in a great spot. $13 million under the cap right now. If they wanted to go get Dalvin Cook, they could. They want to make a midseason move, they can. They want to make a move prior to the start of September, they can. Pretty impressive. Dallas Cowboys have held Dak Prescott back. They've held him back. You know, when you put the star on your helmet, you have obligations. Go see people, do this. You're kind of like a TV star. You think you're 100%? See, that's the great thing about being an Eagle, too. You don't have the same obligations that Dak has. Dak's more of a TV star. Jalen's more of a football player. You see, in Philly, you're a football player. In Dallas, you're a TV star. And being a TV star, you have obligations. You got to go to premieres. You got a lot of things to do. I'm going to get to this with Jalen Hurts in a second here. Okay? So is this a big year for Dak? I think so. But then again, you never know what the mindset of Jerry Jones is. What's he going to do? Get lucky again in the draft and find somebody? Don't you notice every single time he finds – look at how he fell in love with Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush is a bum. The Giants cut him. He's a bum. Remember when he was saying, Brandon Weeden had one of the greatest arms he's ever seen? Seriously, dude. I mean, come on. Here, let me what was that line that I saw today? Here, listen to this. Niner guy. Again, because he always tells me we need new content on the Niners. Here's what Trent Williams said about a guy we all know is not working out in San Francisco. This is a prime example. Trent Williams is impressed with the ability of Trey Lance to stay positive. What exactly does that mean? He's impressed with him and his ability to stay positive. Why? Because everyone's calling you a bust and that you suck? Dude, those aren't endorsements. Those are backhanded slaps. That's not an endorsement of Trey Lance. That's an indictment on Trey Lance. Hey, Trey Lance, John Lynch, has had a very, very positive offseason. What was the name? Kittle. Boy, I'll tell you, he looks better than he did a year ago. He sucked a year ago. And now you got Trent Williams saying, I'm really impressed the way Trey Lance stays positive. Nothing in there talks about his ability or how he's throwing the ball or how he looks better. I mean, those are backhanded slaps on June 9th. Come on, man. This is what's separating Hurts. Hurts has separated himself from Dak already in 1 year as being a better leader and being more dedicated. Let me get to Hurts here now. I thought about this last night a lot about Jalen Hurts. It's always hard to talk about a guy who got a $255 million contract and say he's still motivated. But let me show you what that means. When you get $255 million, do you know what you have? You have more people wanting your time and more people wanting your resources. So what you do is you have to close off a lot of people and shut people off you've had in your life because they'll take you off your focus of winning games. That's why the NovaCare Center is a place for Jalen Hurts to get away from all those people, his agents, his obligations. The kind of money that you're making now, there's obligations to that. People want you. People are constantly calling you. People want money. Family members want money. People are pleading for you to help them. Anytime people like him get a ton of money, okay, You have people wanting things, your time, your resources. Quinn Seals, come to the link this year and do a live show there. Working on it, promise you. It's not changed him. You see, people look at the angle of the kind of money that you make and they think it changes you as a man. No, it changes your environment. And then the environment changes the person. Take it from me. Let me say this to you. Just my small world. I got $500,000 when I signed with the Bucs, which is a lot of money in 1987. I'd never seen that kind of money in my life. My folks weren't poor. My uncle and my aunt are good. I'll leave it there because she gets pissed off if I say anything else. They're good. My Uncle Richard worked his ass off. My grandfather worked 3 different jobs. And we were good, man. I never really wanted for anything. I never have. Okay? I got that money. Dude, I'm spending here. I'm doing this. I'm doing it. You know what I forgot to do? This is a me issue. What about those 12 hours in the weight room and on the field and on the running and watching film and doing all the little things that I did to get there? And you lose focus. You lose your focus. Okay? You lose focus. And again, it's not crying. It's lost opportunity. Is that I'm crying over. I see a guy here go, I make $18K. Hard worker, gets up every day, puts food on the table for him and his family, keeps a roof over their head. That's a guy that works his ass off, knows that he's got to get up every day and do it. He can't have distractions in his life. I admire people like that. But when you get that kind of money, man, you forget it. Jalen's not going to forget that. And where I'm going here, do you know his greatest motivation? Okay? The greatest motivation that Jalen has, Tone, you're going to like this one. He sucked as a passer. He wasn't accurate. He got his job taken from him. What else? Nick Saban didn't think he was the guy. He was drafted in the 2nd round. But this is not a bad pick. But all those things. He's motivated by his own deficiencies. Wants to be a better passer. Wants to be more accurate. Wants to lead a team. Wants the guys around him to benefit in the success that he has. Again, a lost art that Wentz doesn't get. You see, this is one of the lost arts that McNabb forgot. Jalen wants to share his success with his teammates. McNabb and Wentz never did. Hence the failures in the postseason. That's why those guys are who they are and why he got 255 after 1 year. Okay? That's why he got that money. It's totally why he has that. TJ goes, Hurts is better than Prescott. Two minutes left in a game. Who do you feel more comfortable with the ball in his hands? That's how I look at games. 2 minutes in a game. 2 minutes in a football game. Who do you feel comfortable with the football in the hands of? Dak Prescott or him? I think Jalen Hurts. I take Jalen Hurts. Okay? That's a great question with the elite guys. I never thought of it like this. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, 2 minutes left in a game. Crazy. I think Allen's a better player, but I would take Hurts. Then again, I think Aaron Rodgers is the better player than Brady, but I would take Brady. Isn't it crazy? Joe Burrow, Hurts. Probably going to stick with Burrow in that one. And the obvious one, I'm not going to go in Kansas City. Herbert, probably go Jalen. Okay? Go Jalen. Trevor Lawrence, going to go Jalen. Can you imagine that? There's really only 2 quarterbacks in the NFL you wouldn't want in a 2-minute situation that wasn't named Jalen Hurts. Lamar Jackson over Dak? Here, I would say this to you. Lamar Jackson over Dak? Yeah, absolutely. Lamar Jackson over Jalen, 2 minutes left in a game? I don't know about that one either. Lamar, if he's healthy, that's a tough one. Okay? Because he's pretty accomplished. He's an accomplished football player. He's an accomplished player. But again, going back to where Hurts is today in his life, he's motivated by his failures or perceived failures. Wasn't accurate, didn't have a good arm, had his job taken from him. All those things fuel him the same way. Boy, man, you know what? They don't look alike. But he and Brady have a lot in common. They have a ton of shit in common, man. Constantly trying to give the job away that Brady wanted and coveted in Michigan. Lloyd Carr never bought into him. Shit, think about that. Lloyd Carr never bought into Brady, but 1 year. And Nick Saban only bought into Jalen for 1 year. 2 coaches that won national titles. And they didn't buy into the best quarterbacks they had in their program's history, maybe. Well, Namath, I guess Namath. Namath had a great game and year and was significant for the NFL and the merger. But if you look at Namath's statistics, Joe Namath wasn't really. Then again, he was on the Jets. Sorry, Jody. Then again, he was on the Jets. Look at what's his name. Lloyd Carr never won a national championship. Read a book. Read a book. Oh, my God. Okay? Never won a national title. Is that right? They didn't split that title that year. Doesn't have part of a national title. Dude, I'm not playing. I don't have to do that shit. Brady has a national title ring. He was a backup on that team, the Brian Greasy. Whatever, dude. Whatever. So you got one organization. You have one organization that's completely backing Jalen Hurts and their attempts to win. You got another one in Dak Prescott who is completely holding him back. Sills, who deals better, Dax or Hurts? By the way, don't forget, the Philly Godfather is going to join us at 4:30 Eastern. I can't wait to hear him, man. First time he'll be on the program. Let's see here. Whose deal's better? Great question. Great question. Whose deal's better? See, I want short deals today. I don't want long-term deals because then I get into the Patrick Mahomes situation where that deal's obsolete now. Better for who? The team or for the player? For the team or the player? Hurts is more team-friendly. Yes. Yes, that's facts. Yes. Hurts' deal is more team-friendly. And it's, in theory, a 3-year deal. Okay? It's a 3-year deal. Hurts is better probably because the money's up front and it's kind of like, but then again, man, he has no trade in there. I don't know. That's a great question. I think they're both great. Next year, Prescott's deal, I think, is $50 million or $52 million, some shit like that. I think he's making 49 this year. And there's no trade in there. And there's a massive cap hit that the Cowboys have after next year in 2024. So that's why this year, in my opinion, is a big year for him. But again, isn't it funny how people in here are really saying that, like, you expected this to be Jalen Hurts where he is? Where in the world did you get that from? This guy is completely... Who are the quarterbacks in the NFL that have overachieved? Kirk Cousins? Lamar Jackson? Jalen Hurts? Derek Carr? It's not a big list. Brock Purdy? Dak? All those guys now are like big-time money-making guys and making a ton of dough right now. Garoppolo? For sure. Russell, third rounder? Absolutely. I thought Derek Carr was a fourth rounder. A second rounder. I thought he was taken in the second round from Fresno. I thought he was a 2, if I'm not mistaken. Carr has underachieved. Carr has overachieved. He was a second-round pick. He wasn't picked in the first round. Kirk Cousins, completely. I think he was a fifth rounder, maybe a fourth rounder in Washington. All those guys who came, obviously Brady, okay? Obviously Brady was the guy who was the ultimate guy, who was the underachiever. Or overachiever, excuse me. Carr's second round, 36th pick. Yeah, I thought he was. I didn't think he was that low on fourth. I thought he was underdrafted, actually. And Derek Carr's had a great career. He's been in the top 10 the last handful of years in passing. He's had a great career. For a second rounder, Derek Carr has put up tremendous numbers as a starting quarterback in the NFL. Cousins was the fourth pick. I personally, I don't know if Jalen Hurts will ever put up the numbers that Derek Carr put up in his career so far. Derek Carr's stats. Derek Carr's had great numbers. Here, you think Jalen will ever do this? And he's been awful healthy. 68% completion percentage, 70% completion percentage, 67% completion percentage, 68% completion percentage, 64% completion percentage, 63% completion percentage, 39.87, 39.37, 35.96, 4,049, 4,054, 4,003, 48.04. Last year, 3,522. 24 touchdowns, 23 touchdowns, 27 touchdowns, 21 touchdowns, 28 touchdowns, 32 touchdowns, 21 touchdowns, 20 touchdowns. You think he'll ever do that? You'll think he'll ever have 1, 2, 3, 4 seasons of 4,000 passing yards, knowing full well you guys have never had one passer except for Carson Wentz throw for 4,000 yards? You think he'll put 4 years in a row up on what Derek Carr did? Now, remember something. When you're playing for, and that's on the shitty Raiders. Some will go, Sills, well, he's behind a lot, so he's going to put numbers up. True. But it's the Raiders. They're the West Coast version of the Washington Commanders. Okay? They're a shitty organization. Now he's with Mickey Loomis and the Benson family, and the Saints are a great organization. It's a great organization, the Saints. We'll see what he does down there. Sunstar says possibly. Jalen Hurts is not a 4,000 yard a year passing guy. Russell Wilson wasn't. He's not. That's not who he is. He's like Lamar. It's okay. You win 14 games, however way you see it done to get to 14 wins. What do you care what the numbers are? See, Jalen Hurts is a fantasy football freak because he runs the ball. And you guys think because you want to add the touchdowns and the yardage that he runs, you think that's a good thing as a passer? I'll say it one more time to you. Jalen Hurts as a passer in the NFL, he's okay. He's not exceptional. He's trending there to get even better. And that's the one thing you hear him constantly talking about, wanting to be better. That's not him. But hey, Ty, I don't care really. That's not him. And Tone makes a great point. Well, the guy in Kansas City's not him either. It's okay. It's okay. Certain guys, like when you look, like to me, you know who one of my favorite players in baseball is Manny Machado. Manny Machado puts up really good numbers, but the hidden gem of Manny Machado, he's the best third baseman in the game. Him and Nolan Arenado. And you know how many games he saves with his glove? That's the hidden gem. It's kind of like Jalen when he runs the ball. That's the hidden gem. Okay? Sills, would you take Carr over Purdy Wings? Of course I would. Derek Carr's a better player. Tony Gwynn and his family are dear friends of mine. Alicia follows my daughter and is a big fan of my daughter. So Alicia Gwynn is one of my dearest friends. And I love the family tremendously. Yeah. So Alicia Gwynn is really good people. Dalvin Cook. Hey, Niner guy, you're going to want to hang around here for this. Folks, I got some news on Dalvin Cook, and you might not like it. Certain people may like it. Philly Godfather is going to join us at 4:30. Hit